Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to have a short chat about clarification surrounding somatic movement, and then we'll move into actual really gentle movement exploration that you could actually do in bed if you want to, either before you go to sleep or even right after you wake up, or both actually would be fantastic. So soma is, if you're not familiar with it, it means kind of the body as perceived from within. And so somatic movement is an approach to movement, you could say. It's not necessarily the movement itself, but it's how you go about doing it. So in somatic movement practice, our attention is very much on our inner experience and how we're perceiving our body while it's doing whatever the movement is. So in a somatic focused movement session, we're not so interested in things like repetition. Usually there's allowance for finding your own natural endpoint of a movement sequence, like when it feels like it comes to a natural end in the movement because you're done exploring it. You've gotten what you needed to get out of it, versus meeting an external repetition criteria. I would say that on average, it's pretty slow. You could argue that that's not always the case because you can certainly perceive movement at different speeds. But because it's dealing in learning and exploring new movement pathways for healing, it's often on the slower side of the movement quality scale. And that makes good sense, because if you really think about any new learning, when you're new in the learning process, it's kind of clunky. You're putting things together, and it's not just like a smoothly executed skill. And so this is no different. And I kind of think of it, if you remember those old printers that had the perforations in the paper where it would print and it would be like da, 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 da. That's kind of what new learning is like. It can be kind of robotic and jarry and very cognitive until it actually becomes embedded in our muscle memory. So I think, anything again with a sensing quality, so we might be sensing how an organ system or an organ is related to the movement, or we might be sensing our body's weight, for example, or we might be sensing, what's another example? How, like sensation, touch sensation, how our hand feels on the inside of our arm, so to speak. Those are all examples in terms of breath, because I know breath work is quite popular. I would think if you're approaching it with a somatic curiosity, you would be kind of watching the breath rather trying to micromanage or control the breath. And so that's maybe the difference. So you could go for a run and it could be very somatic in nature. You're focused on the inner experience, or you could go for a run and it could be not somatic at all. You're focused on how many calories did I burn? How much distance did I go? Like, what does my watch say? That would be kind of a real contrasting difference there. You could also, so something that tends to be somatic in nature, such as yoga or Pilates, you could attend a yoga or Pilates class and you could move through an entire 60-minute sequence and not have it be somatic at all if you're actually simply mimicking what the teacher is doing or the person next to you, and you're not focused on your own internal landscape. So I think the important thing, like what is even the point of somatic movement? I feel like the point of it is that we can get stuck in movement patterns that are not serving us, and then that actually impacts our relationship to the world as well. It impacts the way that we think about things. So you can imagine if your body is rigid and not responsive and stuck in a certain pattern, you can imagine just how that might affect your thoughts and your feelings as well. They kind of get jammed up and repetitive, and we lose cognitive flexibility. So even just in terms of, aging and brain health and dementia and Alzheimer's prevention, it's super important to be flexible. And flexible isn't just a term related to muscles. It's actually it's like something that we need to embody with every cell of our being, and our thoughts and our new learnings and how we relate to the world is no different. So I think that's, if that answers maybe why somatic movement is important, is because it allows us to unlock and unwind patterns that are not serving us, whether they're there from just basic stress or more ingrained trauma. It could be for any number of reasons, but the bottom line is that we are trying to take the time to reorganize ourselves and find a better way. So with that said, maybe that was a bit wordy. I'll just quickly summarize it here. So somatic movement is any movement where you are focused on your internal experience versus any external box ticking, we'll say. And it's important because it allows us to create new movement patterns and find better ways of doing things. And those new ways of doing things may or may not be permanent because life happens, but the cool thing is that we can always come back to a healthy movement practice and reset ourselves. That said, let's go ahead and get on with a bit of exploration. So let's move into a little bit of an exploration now. So you're definitely going to want a cushion for some head support. If you're not bringing the ground up to meet you and you have any slight tension in your body whatsoever, it's hard to feel what you're doing. It really messes with your proprioception of what's going on. So go ahead and take a moment if you need yourself, and then meet me down on the mat or wherever you're doing this, on your back with your head supported on the cushion. And then just take a moment to arrive. And we're going to bring our attention to our eyes. So our eyes are a sensing organ, and let's take a moment to explore just a little bit of rotation in the body, but guided through the eyes. So let's take our inward gaze to the right, looking through the right side of your head, and just allow that to let your head fall to the right the tiniest bit. And then take your eyes internally to the left and allow your head to fall left just the tiniest bit. And again, allowing your eyes to fall to the right, and the weight of your head follows to the right. And your eyes fall to the left, and the weight of your head falls to the left, and eyes fall to the right, and head falls to the right, and eyes fall to the left, and head falls to the left. And just take a moment to regroup and come back to center. If something has changed or opened, take a moment to reshuffle yourself if you need to. And then we're going to take our eyes up through our forehead and gently nod our chin up. And send our eyes down through our cheekbones and gently nod our head down. And eyes move up and we nod up. And eyes move down and we nod down. Eyes lead the way up and chin follows. And eyes go down and we nod down and pause. Reshuffle if you need to. And then let's just take all of those dots and see if you can connect them. So we have eyes go to the right and head follows. And we nod down and around. Just connecting the dots. So see if you're not even sure who is leading and who is following, but the eyes are definitely, there's a sense of awareness of them in your skull. And maybe you've shifted attention to your nose, the tip of your nose, drawing a circle on the ceiling. And maybe you're sensing how that relates to the movement of your head and neck and your eyes as a sensing organ. And when you're done in one direction, just take that in the other direction, noticing anywhere that's snaggly or tight. I'm quite sore today, so I feel a good amount of restriction pretty much through the whole range of motion. So that's a good reason to also not rely heavily on the instructor's visual example, because where they're at in their body on any given day may or may not be communicated clearly to you. And so you could be in a very different space in your own body on any given day. And just rest and pause. Now we're just going to roll to our right side or left side, whatever it is, just so you can see. And we're going to just sense some touch. So take your knees bent and one hand on top of the other, and you're just going to get a little bit of a push-pull motion going. You may want to do this with your eyes closed. And see what's calling your attention. Maybe it's the sensation if you focus on the little bit of friction between the contact points of the palms of your hands. Notice how ease of movement allows for your entire spine to be involved. While it might seem small, there's still kind of a sense of organization and your whole spine going along for the ride. So even your head and neck have a little bit of a nod up as you reach forward and a nod down as you pull back. And a nod up as you reach forward and a nod down as you pull back. And then just coming to rest so that your hands are on top of each other. And we're going to increase that motion a bit. So as you pull back and you get to your end point, you're going to just keep moving, and that top arm is going to stay in contact with your body the whole time until it can't. And then you're going to reach through your fingertips and open, and then they're going to curve in. And as soon as they can, they're going to find your chest and skim the inside of your arm, forearm, wrist, palm of the hand, and reach forward. Again, drawing back, focusing on the sensation of touch, and maintaining that for as long as you can until you're no longer able, and then just continue the motion into that nice, healthy rotation. And we'll take one more here. So reaching forward and pulling back and skimming the arm and unfolding. And then we'll just end. So notice how there's so many places that you can focus your attention, and so really it's a matter of on any given day finding what works for you and what helps organize movement the most. So now let's sense some weight in our lower body. So if you imagine that you had a blanket maybe over the top of you if you were in bed, you're just gonna lift that top leg a little bit and see if you can sense what that weight might feel like of that blanket. So rather than micromanaging muscle tissue, which really, in my experience, never goes well, you can focus on, it may sound a little bit ironic, but even direction of movement. The direction in which you're moving can create an internal experience for you. Sensing weight, finding the weight of your leg if you don't have a blanket on you, just paying attention to, well, how much does my leg really weigh and what kind of effort is needed to lift it? And you might kind of explore that at some different angles. So maybe the leg comes a little bit forward. If your leg is bent, that reduces the lever. So if you might sense that, oh, my leg is a bit heavier now. That's interesting. Okay, very fascinating. And just pause. And then we'll take that sequence on the other side. So just take a moment to sit up. If you were in bed, you would just roll over, but I'm gonna change around because of the camera here. But just notice if you feel kind of more in your body, more organized, hopefully more calm. And if not more calm, maybe at least more clear about how you actually are feeling. So, you know, we always kind of set calm as the gold standard, but if you're actually really angry about something in your life, for example, maybe you just need to have more clarity about what that is and what's causing it and what your context to that is. So let's move over to the other side. And get yourself organized. And we'll just start with that push-pull again. So close your eyes. Anytime that you have an opportunity to close your eyes and experience movement, it's definitely going to enhance the somatic experience of it. So feeling your skin, contacting skin. And then when you're ready, just take it into a little bit more of a full range of motion. Opening. If you choose to open your eyes, another good tip is just to allow your eyes, kind of similar to if you're driving, to focus on what's moving. So your eyes are going to follow your fingertips if you're choosing to have them open. And of course, if you were doing this self-guided, you would have complete luxury to take as long or as little time as you need in each place. So then just pause and let's just sense that top leg, the weight of the leg kind of floating up and feeling the weight of the blanket. Or if the blanket isn't there, maybe feeling the weight of the leg itself. So there's a real witnessing quality, a curiosity, and no assumptions about how something is going to go or how much something weighs. So you have to approach it with a kind of fresh perspective every time you enter into a movement sequence. And then you might try a few with your leg extended. And just notice how the weight of your leg kind of relates to the rest of your body and your spine. And then you can pause and find your way just up to sitting again. Sorry, excuse me. And when you arrive, just kind of take a moment again to sense where you're at in your body and where you're at in relationship to your surroundings, and just take, an opportunity to check back in with your internal landscape and have some clarity about where you're at. And then use that clarity to move you forward in whatever way you need to for the rest of the day, whether it's to be productive or to rest or to have a difficult conversation, whatever it is that needs to happen. So I hope that was helpful. I think the nugget is that focusing inward can be really calming and clarifying, and that it doesn't need to happen in a big, massive exercise session. It can happen in just the smallest ways, like before you get up in the morning and before you go to bed at night. So thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. Let me know if you have anything that you're interested in, and I'll see what I can do to create some clarity around it. Take care, and bye for now.